Third largest country on the planet in both size and population, yet nearly half of it is empty. That's right, despite housing 334 million people, a massive chunk of America is just wide open space. We're talking about states so vast and empty you could drive for hours without seeing another soul. I mean, think about it. You've got these massive cities packed with people, and then, nothing. In fact, more people live in New York City than in the next 9 states I'm about to show you combined. So why aren't people flocking to these gorgeous but empty places? What's the deal with these ghost states? Well, buckle up because we're diving into the top 9 states where no one seems to live, and we'll find out why. Oh, and before we start, hit that like button if you want to deep dive into the largest, emptiest regions of the world. Let's get this video to 5,000 likes. You guys know I love a good challenge. Number 9. Maine. Alright, first up, Maine. Look, Maine is so far north, people, that it's practically Canadian. You're surrounded by pine forests, glacial lakes, and moose. It's beautiful, right? I mean, picture yourself waking up to that view every morning. It's like stepping into a postcard. But there's a reason only 1.385 million people live here. It's called winter. Imagine a season that lasts so long and gets so cold you start wondering if the Night King is coming. I'm talking brutal. We're talking negative temperatures, blizzards that could bury a house, and enough ice to make Elsa jealous. Unless you love snowmobiles, frozen lakes, and hearing your nose hairs freeze in real time, you'll probably pass. Don't get me wrong, there are some die-hard Mainers who love the snow, but for the rest of us, it's a bit intense. Fun fact. Maine is 89% forest. Yeah, 89%. That's more trees than people, folks. So if you're looking for a bustling metropolis, keep on driving. But if you're into hiking, fishing, and maybe spotting a moose or two, Maine might be your jam. Just make sure you pack a really warm coat. Number 8. Montana. Next stop, Montana. A state that looks like it was ripped straight out of a Wild West movie. Cowboy hats, horses, and scenery that'll make your jaw drop. We're talking about mountains that pierce the sky, rivers that wind through valleys, and sunsets that'll make you question if you're dreaming. It's the kind of place that makes you want to buy a cowboy hat and learn to ride a horse, and it's huge. I mean, seriously huge. It's bigger than Japan, but guess what? Only 1.12 million people live here. That's like one person for every 10 square miles. You'd think people would be rushing in, right? Wrong. The weather is a killer, literally. We're talking scorching hot summers that'll melt your ice cream before you can even blink, and winters so cold they'll freeze your tears before they even roll down your face. Billings, the biggest city, barely has 100,000 people. Some towns are so remote that getting to a Walmart is like planning a road trip. Seriously, you could drive for hours without seeing another living soul. It's both beautiful and a little bit eerie. But hey, if you're into that rugged cowboy life, Montana's all yours. Just be prepared to embrace the solitude, the extreme weather, and the occasional tumbleweed blowing down the street. Number 7. Rhode Island. From giant to tiny, Rhode Island. Let's zoom down to Rhode Island. The smallest state in the US. It's basically a speck on the map, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in people. Over 1 million people squeezed into 1,034 square miles. It's like one big town where everyone knows your name, whether you like it or not. Here's the thing, though. Rhode Island has all the charm of New England, but none of the perks anymore. The cost of living is creeping up faster than a vine on a trellis, and if you squint, it's starting to look a lot like New York, minus the skyline. Don't get me wrong, Rhode Island has its perks. The beaches are beautiful, the seafood is incredible, and the history is richer than a millionaire's vault. But if you're looking for peace, quiet, and affordable housing, you might want to keep looking. But hey, if you're looking for a place where everything is within walking distance, this is your spot. You can walk to the beach, walk to the park, walk to the grocery store, you get the idea. Just be prepared to fight for parking. Number 6. Delaware. The state where 2 million corporations are headquartered, but the actual population? Just over 1 million. That's right, More companies than people. You'd think there'd be huge cities, skyscrapers reaching for the clouds, but no. Wilmington, the biggest city, has 70,000 people. That's it. You could fit the entire population of Wilmington in a decent-sized football stadium. So why aren't there more people in Delaware? Well, Philadelphia is just 30 minutes away and ate up all the action. It's like that friend who always steals your thunder. Delaware's vibe is more beach town for retirees than bustling metropolis. Think quiet beaches, quaint towns, and a pace of life that's slower than a snail in molasses. But here's the kicker, those corporations? They pay no state income tax. None. So they're here in name only, not for job creation. They're like that friend who crashes on your couch but never contributes to rent. That's why Delaware's economy is more about beach tourism than tech startups. So if you're looking for a corporate job, Delaware might not be the best bet. But if you're looking for a relaxing retirement with no state income tax, Delaware might be calling your name. Number 5. South Dakota. Home to Mount Rushmore and Wall Drug. Yep, after you pass about 200 billboards, you'll realize the most famous thing here is a drugstore. And honestly, that says a lot about South Dakota. It's vast, it's cold, and it's really far from everything. We're talking wide open spaces that stretch as far as the eye can see, winters that'll make you want to hibernate until spring, and a sense of isolation that can be both exhilarating and terrifying. Population? Less than 1 million. And despite all that land, there's almost nothing there. Farms? Yep. Truck stops? Barely. But you know what it does have? Fields that make you wonder if you're the last human left on Earth. Oh, and in case you were curious, South Dakota is 177% bigger than Florida but has fewer residents than Jacksonville. Yeah, it's empty. But hey, if you're looking for a place where you can escape the crowds, breathe in the fresh air, and maybe even see a tumbleweed or two, South Dakota might be the place for you. Just don't forget to pack a warm coat and a good book. Number 4. North Dakota. If South Dakota feels empty, wait till you meet North Dakota. Imagine everything I just said but worse. Colder winters, hotter summers, flash floods that could sweep your house away, and oil. Not exactly a tourist brochure. With fewer than 800,000 residents, North Dakota's population is smaller than some neighborhoods in major U.S. cities. That's right, you could fit the entire population of North Dakota into a few city blocks. So why is North Dakota so empty? Well, for starters, it's isolated. You're far from any big urban centers. And the weather? Let's just say you better love extremes. We're talking winters so cold they'll make your teeth chatter, summers so hot you'll sweat through your clothes, and wind that'll blow you off your feet. Most people didn't stop here on their way west, and it shows. But hey, if you're looking for a place where you can truly get away from it all, North Dakota might be the place for you. Just be prepared for the isolation, the weather, and the occasional oil rig. Number 3. Alaska. Alaska. So big it makes Texas look tiny. Alaska is the biggest state by a long shot. It's so big that if you chopped it in half, each piece would still be larger than Texas. We're talking mountains that touch the clouds, glaciers that'll take your breath away, and wildlife that'll make you believe in magic. But for all its beauty, mountains, glaciers, wildlife, only 733,000 people live here. That's fewer people than the city of San Francisco, spread out over a state that's twice the size of Texas. Why? Because it's basically the North Pole. Winter means 4 hours of daylight, 40 degrees temperatures, and enough snow to bury a house. And don't even get me started on the darkness. And roads? What roads? There are barely 16,000 miles of road in the whole state. That's less than Connecticut. You could fit 120 Connecticut's into Alaska. Mind blown. So unless you're a seasoned adventurer with a love for the extreme, Alaska might not be the place for you. But hey, if you're up for the challenge, Alaska will reward you with beauty and grandeur that's unlike anything else on Earth. Number 2. Vermont. Ah, Vermont, where the syrup flows and the pace is slow. When you think of Vermont, you probably imagine cozy little farmhouses nestled in autumnal forests, right? And yeah, it's exactly that. We're talking rolling hills blanketed in vibrant fall foliage, charming towns straight out of a Hallmark movie, and a pace of life that's slower than a snail in molasses. But here's the thing, Vermont is rural. Like, really rural. Only 38.9% of the population lives in urban areas. That means most of Vermont is forests, farms, and small towns where everyone knows your name. It's the ultimate escape for anyone looking to live off the grid. But that's also why it's so empty. 647,000 residents total. That's fewer people than the city of Denver spread out over an entire state. Fun fact: Vermont is the most moved state since 2020. People love that chill, slow pace. But don't be surprised if your neighbors are maple syrup enthusiasts and goads. So if you're looking for a place to escape the hustle and bustle of city life, Vermont might be the place for you. Just be prepared to embrace the rural lifestyle, the slow pace, and the occasional goat in your backyard. Number 1. Wyoming. And the crown goes to Wyoming, the ultimate empty state. Yep, it's got just 5.9 people per square mile. That means you could walk for miles without seeing another soul. It's the second least densely populated state, and for good reason. There are no big cities. Actually, there aren't many jobs either. If it weren't for the government, the state might not have an economy at all. But hey, it's one of the safest places to buy a home. So if you want solitude, Wyoming's calling your name. We're talking wide open spaces that'll make you feel like you're the last person on Earth, stunning mountain ranges that'll take your breath away, and a sense of peace and quiet that's almost deafening. But be warned, Wyoming is not for the faint of heart. It's a place for those who are self-sufficient, who love the great outdoors, and who don't mind a little bit of solitude. So if you're looking for a place to escape the crowds, reconnect with nature, and maybe even find yourself, Wyoming might be the place for you. Just be prepared to embrace the emptiness. So which of these states would you dare to live in? Are you the rugged, outdoorsy type braving the wilds of Alaska or the solitude of Wyoming? Or are you sticking to the coast, maybe trying to snag a deal in Delaware? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see where you guys would thrive. Would you embrace the peace and quiet, or would you miss the hustle and bustle? Let me know. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell, because you don't want to miss out on more adventures like this one.